Good morning. Welcome to the second week of online classes. I still cannot see anybody in my class now at the moment, so I hope there's no problem in the system. But if there's any problem in the system, please watch me later on. So, last week in Gulliver's Travels, we finished the first part of the book, his adventures in Lilliput. So after finishing his adventures in Lilliput, now we're going to begin part 2, which is called A Voyage to Brobdingnag. In A Voyage to Brobdingnag, Gulliver this time travels to a land of the giants, and as I said last week, he doesn't take advantage of his size in Lilliput. He cannot take advantage of his size in Lilliput because he notices that size doesn't always help you to survive. Because in Lilliput, he was ashamed by his smallest need of going to the toilet, because he was in the open all the time, and he had to do it before the eyes of everyone, which was a very difficult thing. And in the second chapter, this time he will be the smaller one, and he will be surrounded by the giants. So, as I said earlier in the beginning of the book, this book is about power relationships, and relativity and perspectivity. There's always relativity in the world. Something is older or younger than somebody else, or something is bigger or smaller than something else. But perspectivity is when you change your perspective, you realize where you are. Or when you change your perspective, you see the reality from a different angle. There's always a perspectivity in this book, as well as relativity. Because of the perspectivity in this book, we understand that the concept of power is a relative concept, and when you change your perspective, your concept of power also changes. Okay, having been condemned by nature and fortune to an active and restless life, in 2 months after my return, I again left my native country and took shipping in the Downs on the 20th day of June 1702 in the Adventure, Captain John Nicholas, a Cornishman, commander, bound for Surat. The beginning sentence of this chapter reminds us of Robinson Crusoe, having been condemned by nature and fortune to an active and restless life. You remember that in one of the beginning sentences of Robinson Crusoe, in one of the beginnings of chapters of Robinson Crusoe, he was also saying that I was destined to be my own destroyer, he was saying. Now he says that having been condemned by nature and fortune to an active and restless life, so he is condemned to have an active life and a restless life, he says. Okay. Of course, when they are sailing, they have a storm. The parts that describe the storm only function to link between the two adventures. During this storm, which was followed by a strong wind, west-southwest, we were carried by my computation about 500 leagues to the east, so that the oldest sailor on board could not tell in what part of the world we were. Even the most experienced sailors cannot tell where they are, because the wind is so strong, the storm is so strong, and they are surrounded by huge waves. The whole ship is surrounded by huge waves, and the gray clouds cover the sky, so they don't know their direction, they don't know where they should go, and they don't know which part of the world they are. Our provisions held out well. Our ship was staunch, our crew all in good health, but we lay in the utmost distress for water. We thought it best to hold on the same course, rather than turn more northerly, which might have brought us to the northwest parts of Great Tartary and into the frozen sea. On the 16th, day of June 1703, a boy on the topmast discovered a land. So what is a mast? Mast is the highest pole on a ship. The highest pole on a ship. So a boy, a sailor boy, climbs up the topmast and he sees a land in the distance. On the 17th, we came in full view of a great island or continent, on the side whereof was a small neck of land jutting out into the sea, and a creek too shallow to hold a ship of above 100 tons. We cast anchor within a league of this creek, and our captain sent a dozen of his men well armed in the long boats, with vessels for water if any could be found. I desired his leave to go with them, that I might see the country and make what discoveries I could. When we came to land, we saw no river or spring, nor any sign of inhabitants. So a group of sailors go onto the shore to look for some fresh water to take back to the ship. However, when they step on the shore, Gulliver a little bit walks further than the other sailors to discover. I now began to be wary, and seeing nothing to entertain my curiosity, I returned gently down towards the creek, and the sea being full in my view, I saw our men already got into the boat and rowing for life to the ship. So he sees that the other sailors are escaping in the boat, rowing quickly back to the ship. And he's surprised why they are not waiting for him. I saw our men already got into the boat, rowing for life to the ship. I was going to hallow after them, although it had been to little purpose, when I observed a huge creature walking after them in the sea, as fast as he could. So he cannot recognize what it is. He cannot tell what kind of a creature it is, but it is huge. And that huge creature is chasing after them. He waded not much deeper than his knees, took prodigious strides. But our men had the start of him half a league, and then the sea thereabouts, being full of sharp-pointed rocks, the monster was not able to overtake the boat. This I was afterwards told, for I durst not to stay to see the issue of that adventure, but ran as fast as I could the way first went, and then climbed up a steep hill, which gave me some prospect of the country. I found it fully cultivated, but that which first surprised me was the length of the grass, which in those grounds that seemed to be kept for hay was about 20 feet high. Now, there's a great difference. In Lilliput, the grass was so tiny and it was so soft. But here now, the grass is about 20 feet high. 20 feet high. More than 2 meters. More than 2 meters. Now, suddenly walking inside the grass, the height of which is about, higher than your height, taller than yourself. He feels like walking in the jungle. Okay. On the next page, he's very scared, of course. He doesn't know where he is, and he cannot guess what kind of grass and what kind of a country he is in. Scared and confounded as I was, I couldn't forbear going on with these reflections when one of the reapers, approaching within 10 yards of the ridge where I lay, made me apprehend that with the next step I should be squashed to death under his foot or cut in two with his reaping hook. So the reaping hook. The farmers reap the grass by a hook. So obviously a farmer is approaching him by using his reaping hook to cut the grass, and approaches Gulliver, and probably if he stays where he is, the farmer might cut his body into two and kill him, or he might be squashed under his food. So what happens is, therefore, he was again about to move. I screamed as loud as fear could make me. Now, his voice was so strong in Lilliput, when he roared, all the other Lilliputians were scared of his voice. But this time, his voice is so low, no one can hear him. He has to shout all the time. Whereabout the huge creature trod short, looking round about under him for some time, at last espied me as I lay on the ground. He considered a while with the caution of one who endeavours to lay hold on a small, dangerous animal in such a manner that it shall not be able either to scratch or to bite him, as I myself have sometimes done with a weasel in England. So, the man, the farmer, sees him, and he lays down, all right, and holds a piece of stick and sticks it to Gulliver to find out what he is. Okay, and as if you are trying to find out a small insect. At length, he ventured to take me up behind by the middle between his forefinger and thumb. So he's holding his body like this, and he's squeezing him a little bit. I guessed his meaning, and my good fortune gave me so much presence of mind that I resolved not to struggle in the least, as he held me in the air about 60 feet from the ground, although he grievously pinched my sides, for fear I should slip through his fingers. All I ventured was to raise my eyes towards the sun, and place my hands together in a supplicating posture, and speak some words in a humble, melancholy tone suitable to the condition I then was in. Okay, towards the end of the same paragraph. In the meantime, I was not able to forbear groaning and shedding tears, turning my head towards my sides, letting him know, as well as I could, how cruelly I was hurt by the pressure of his thumb and finger. He seemed to apprehend my meaning, for lifting up the lappet of his coat, he put me gently into it, and immediately ran along with me to his master, who was a substantial farmer, and the same person I had first seen in the field. So the guy takes him and puts Gulliver into his pocket and runs away from the farm to go to his master, to show this strange creature to his master. Now, as you may remember, in Lilliput, Gulliver was huge, and he was putting those Lilliputians, those tiny people, into his pocket. Now he's in the same place. So the size changes, and his understanding of power, his perspective about his power changes strangely. Okay, we understand that your size doesn't always give you power here. You have to change your perspective to see the reality about yourself. All right, the farmer, as I supposed by their talk, having received such an account of me as his servant could give him, took a piece of a small straw about the size of a walking staff, and therewith lifted up the lappets of my coat, which it seems he thought to be some kind of covering that nature had given me. All right. With a straw in his hand, he checks his clothes, okay, pulls up his clothes to see what is behind the clothes, because he thinks that the clothes are a part of his body, this strange creature. Okay, and I took a purse. I fell on my knees. He starts begging them. I fell on my knees, lifted up my hands and eyes, spoke several words as loud as I could. I took a purse of gold out of my pocket, humbly presented to him. He received it on the palm of his hand. And then applied it close to his eye to see what it was, and afterwards turned it several times at the point of a pin, which he took out of his sleeve, but could make nothing of it. So he gives him some gold, all right, from a purse, and the farmer pours down the gold onto his palm, and with a pin he checks the gold. He makes nothing out of it. He doesn't understand what it is. And whereupon I made a sign that he should place his hand on the ground. I took the purse, opening it, poured all the gold into his palm, where 6 Spanish pieces of 4 pistols each, beside 20 or 30 smaller coins. I saw him wet the tip of his little finger upon his tongue, take up one of my largest pieces, then another, but he seemed to be wholly ignorant what they are. So the pieces of gold on his palm are like dust, all right, dust. So he just wets his tongue to see what it is or to taste it, and he makes nothing out of it. He made me a sign to put them again into my purse, and the purse again into my pocket, which after offering him to several times, I thought it best to do. So we understand that gold means nothing in this land, and it doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't have any purpose, and they don't have the concept of gold, or maybe the concept of even they don't have the concept of money, perhaps. The farmer by this time was convinced I must be a rational creature. He spoke often to me, but the sound of his voice pierced my ears like that of a watermill, yet his words were articulate enough. So when the farmer starts speaking, his voice is like the huge sound of a big machine, piercing his ears all the time. So they have a dinner at home, in the farmer's home, and they put Gulliver onto the table as they are eating their dinner. This is in the middle part of the next paragraph. Then the master made me a sign to come to his trencher side, but as I walked on the table, being in great surprise all the time, as the indulgent reader will easily conceive an excuse, I happened to stumble against a crust and fell flat on my face, but received no hurt. I got up immediately, and observing the good people to be in much concern, I took my hat and, waving it over my head, made 3 huzzas to show I had got no mischief by my fall. So even a small breadcrumb makes him fall down, because he stumbles over it, and he falls down, and the people at the family at the table is worried, and he stands up, takes off his hat, greets them, and shows them that he is fine. I got up immediately, observing the good people to be much concerned. He takes his hat and greets them. But advancing forwards towards my master, his youngest son, who sat next him, an arch boy of about 10 years old, took me up by the legs. So the little boy of the family takes him by the legs and holds him up, upside down, holding him from the legs, and he shakes him upside down. Held me so high in the air that I trembled every limb. His father snatched me from him, and at the same time gave him such a box on the left ear as would have felled an European troop of horse to the earth, ordering him to be taken from the table. But being afraid the boy might owe me a spite, and well remembering how mischievous all children among us naturally are to sparrows, habits, young kittens, puppy dogs, I fell on my knees and, pointing to the boy, made my master to understand, as well as I could, that I desired his son might be pardoned. The father complained, and the lad took his seat again, whereupon I went in and kissed his hand, which my master took and made him stroke me very gently with it. Okay, now I'm making videos, 20-minute long videos because of the system, and I'm ending this session and begin the second session quickly.